and Hell on Wheels, and anyway, it's a good show. I want to welcome my friend Elliot's family here today. They all came to see Miss Amanda sing, apparently. That's fantastic. I'm pleased to meet his siblings. He always speaks so highly of his whole family, and I always, in my head, picture what his siblings look like or what they're like, and so I'm pleased that you guys are here and joining us today. I'm pleased that you guys are here, too. Not that I'm not glad that you guys are here. I'm super glad that Daniel showed up today, because there's a special job that Daniel has today, and I was sitting there at 10 after, quarter after 9. I texted him. I said, listen, tomorrow when you come, make sure, yeah, I'll totally, 100%. He always sends, gifts, like he's 80, and so he sends me, little memes or whatever. I'll totally be here. Anyway, I'm glad that you made it, buddy. I know that you're driving all the way from Hobart or wherever yeah, I get it. Anyway. Open your Bibles if you got them to 1 Corinthians chapter 6. If you don't have a Bible, there should be one on your table. If you don't have one on your table, raise your hand. We'll get you one. Or you can follow along on the YouVersion or the Bible app. All the scripture, hey, I didn't even know, when did you get here? Tyler, did you sneak it in? You go to the back door? Anyway, one thing I like about a church this small is when someone shows up. We're going to talk about that in a second, but you can't sneak in here. People know when you're here, when you're not here, Elliot. So, anyway, if you go to the YouVersion app and go to the lower right-hand corner, you can click on More, click on Events. You can search for Remnant Church. All the scripture, all the notes, even the pictures are there where you can follow along. If you take your own notes, make sure you save them, though. Otherwise, YouVersion will just not remember that you were there. Last week, we spoke about how we can have a crush on other pastors and other church facilities. We can have this church crush. We're like, oh, yeah, but that church, though, the coffee there, the seats are, oh, my gosh, or, they have a ball pit, or a gym. We have a gym. It's right upstairs. We don't have access to it, but there's a gym here. So if anyone asks you, does your church have a gym? Oh, and we have Jimmy, and that counts as a gym as well. So you can tell, yeah, we have a gym. You can come and meet him. He's really nice. Paul's instruction to us is clear that we are appointed to a body of believers and not to an address. We talked about this last week. We think that we're called to a church because we really like the parking situation. Or we think that we're called to a church because we really like the lighting situation. Or we like how the pastor dresses, or how the pastor preaches, or how full the worship team is, and they're all color coordinated. Right? We feel like we're called to a church because of that. And I just really struggle to find anywhere in Paul's instruction where he says, find the best music ministry, right? Or find the best speaker, find the best ball pit, right? Find the best coffee. It's just not in what Paul tells us to do in finding our church. There are a couple of things that are unique to Remnant Church that you won't find at other facilities. One, we meet with the lights on. There's not a lot of churches that meet with the lights on, like in our style of faith, right? Certainly if you go to a Catholic church. But we like to meet in the dark, because I feel like it emphasizes, for me, aesthetically, it emphasizes what's happening on the stage. I can see the stage better if the rest of the house is dark, right? They use the same sort of thought process that would go into a Broadway production, right? Light the performers, everyone else in the dark, and then the performers are like, whoa, right? It's beautiful. Well, we meet with the lights on. I feel like, I don't know, there's something about that. There's something about meeting with the lights on. And we also meet facing one another. Apart from right now, you're all facing me. But like before, we were facing each other. And I feel like that's different here than it is at a lot of other churches. It can sometimes be easy to envy or pine for a church experience where we're inconspicuous or even invisible. You could see where it'd be nice. Listen, I'm going to get there late. And if I do get there late, I can just sneak in the back and no one will even notice, right? I would sit in the dark. I'll sit in the back row. I could be inconspicuous. I can sit in the back. I can scroll through my phone and no one's even going to notice. I want to sit in a big church where I'm invisible and I can sit in the back and look at my phone, and then I can be done. And I would have gotten credit for going to church, and now I'm done with the whole scene. You're not part of a church if that's your idea of a perfect church experience. You're attending a show, man. And I'm not trying to diss any other church that's getting together. I'm sure that's not their intent. But if that's what you think church is, sneaking in the dark, sitting in the back and scrolling on your phone, you're not at church, bro. You're not at church. And so that can't be the most perfect church experience. The purpose of church is not the Sunday gathering. This is dessert, right? When we get together, this is dessert. Church happened yesterday at Copper State, right? Both for men and for women. Church happened on Monday. What day? Monday. Church happened Monday when all the Young Life kids came to our church office and we sat down and talked about Jesus. That was church. Right? For a kid to ask, man, you should have heard these questions these kids were asking. So they're Young Life kids. And if you don't do Young Life, they're the people that they're upstairs. They're kind of like a youth group without a church, right? So they do all these activities and they try to point people to Jesus, but also in life. You know what I mean? They try to like walk alongside them in life. And so these are kids that are like rough and tumble kids. It smelled like skunk in that room, if that means anything to you. You know what I mean? And so I loved being at a place where people came like that. Yeah, come, let's talk about Jesus. And then they asked, Daniel, did they not ask the most poignant question? Oh, Ashley was there too. Like, just beautiful questions about God. Like, one of the questions was, what would you, if you could ask God any question, what would you ask? And I'm telling you, they would have shamed all of you. And like the thoughtfulness of their questions. It was beautiful. Anyway, that's church. This is just the dessert. Sunday is a Sunday with a cherry. You know what I mean? Sunday is a Sunday. AE. Thanks, Pat. I appreciate you getting that joke. This isn't what your faith is made out of. I love that you're here, but know that church is so much more. And how do I know this? Because if you look at the ideas of Christ, and if you look at the guidance of Paul, you won't find instruction on what is the ideal order of service. You should always have 3 songs to do prayer between the second and the third song, right? There's nothing in Paul's letters about what kind of coffee you should serve. Nothing about how many worship songs we should sing, or who should do the announcements, or who should do the offering. What's the perfect length of a sermon? What brand of LED wall is the best, right? Or what about the speaker array? Should it be JBL? Should it be PV? I don't know that stuff. So anyway, you know what I mean? Nothing in Paul's letters tells us how to perform church. How many balls should we put in the kids' ball pit? I'm going to take 6,000 balls to have an ample ball pit, and they need to be all primary colors. Paul never tells us anything about that. It seems to me every instruction from Paul to the church is how do we deal with one another, and how do we love God and love our neighbor. That's all Paul talks about when he talks about church. Why are we talking about anything extra? Why aren't we making a big deal about anything extra? To love one another, to support one another, to disciple one another, we have to live alongside one another. I have to do life with you. There's kind of this famous quote. I don't know if someone famous said it, but there's a famous quote that said, the pastor should smell like his flock. A pastor should smell like his sheep, right? I should get dirty with my sheep. I should look like you, and I should live like you, and I should act like you, and we should look, love, and act like each other. I need to feel pain when someone got up and prayed with Jillian just before. You should have seen Jillian's face. Oh, she was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this is what's happening in your life. And Jillian felt that need. That's what we're up to. The story that Mindy told. I need to be invested in Mindy's. Hey, if you're in here, who's watching the kids? What's going on? Oh, okay. All right, okay.
I'm so sorry that I forgot to mention you.
Oh.
You're the first person I reached out to.
Oh, no, I didn't call you out so you could give me credit. I don't even know what you're talking about. But I just feel like we're a flock together. And if we just see each other on a Sunday and I don't see you any other time, if I don't talk to you, if I don't text with you, if I don't talk with you on the phone, if I don't have coffee with you, I'm not doing life with you. We have to walk alongside another. And that's why when we are in church, we do meet with the lights on. I want to see your face. I want to sit across the table from you, not behind you. We have to see each other. We have to know each other. We can't have a relationship with people on the other side of a dark room. If we're on a dark room, I don't even know who's sitting on the other side. We can't have a relationship with people with whom we spend a whole hour just once a week looking at the back of their heads. That's not doing life. Ugh, gross. That's not what relationship looks like. And sometimes relationships, though, are difficult. They can be messy here. And they were messy 2,000 years ago at the church in Corinth. Here's what Paul said to the church in Corinth. When one of you has something against someone else in your group, Why do you go to the judges and the laws of the court, the law courts? The way you think and live is wrong. No, the way that they think and live is wrong. The world is wrong. So why do you let them decide who is right? Why don't you let God's holy people decide who is right? These are like the juror of your peers, right? Not out there. And Paul's saying, listen, work through it in your church community. Work through it in your family. Don't take it to court. Don't take it to the outsiders. What do they know? Listen, I know that when Sally, there's no one named Sally, does something that makes me mad, or when she crosses me, I know that I can't go to the court and say, listen, Sally's a, you know what, right? She rides a broom to church or to school or to work, right? But I tell you what I do. I don't go to court, but here's where I go. I go to social media. I'll light this girl up, man. I'll just, I'm just filling social media, right? Sometimes a little bit obtusely, you know what I mean? Like I'm just like thinly veiled. You know what I mean? Like you ever post like that? You know, you don't really want to say it, but you want to make sure that someone knows something. And so I go to the court of public opinion. I want to shame Sally about what she's done to me or how I feel about what she's done to me. I want to shame her, right? I want to sully Sally's reputation. I want to court sympathy for me. I want to tell everyone else about Sally, right? So people feel bad for me because that like encourages me in my discouragement. What in the world? That we could just end right there. I want to be encouraged in my discouragement. I want to recruit people to my side. I don't want to fix it. I just want to be right. And so if I can put it on social media and someone likes it or someone cares, hugs me, like with the huggy care, right? Or angry face at Sally, right? Now, okay, now I'm valid. I'm right. And that's the space that we operate in. I don't want to fix it. I just want to be right. And that's a cowardly way to conduct your life. It's a coward's way. It's a childish way. And if you're doing it, I'm calling you right now a coward, and I'm calling you a child. Grow up. If that's the extent of your conflict resolution, you're a child. We have to be willing to admit our part in all difficulty. We have to be teachable. This dynamic isn't new to the 21st century. Jesus knew this was a problem, and he knew that it was part of the human condition 2,000 years ago. Look what he says in Matthew. Oh gosh, it's so small. If your brother or sister in God's family does something wrong, go and tell them what they did wrong. Do this when you are alone with them. Not right? Go and say, listen, what's up, Sally? If they listen to you, then you have helped them to be your brother and sister again. But if they refuse to listen, go to them again and take one or two people with you. Then there will be 2 or 3 people who will be able to tell all that had happened. If they refuse to listen then, or to them, tell the church. And if they refuse to listen to the church, treat them as you would treat someone who does not know God or who is a tax collector. If Sally makes me mad, I need to go talk to Sally. Sally, you made me mad. This is how you made me feel. Was this your intention? And if Sally doesn't listen to that, then I'm going to grab my friend. I'm going to grab Paul. Paul and I, we're going to go talk to Sally, right? Everyone will talk to Paul because Paul's super scary because he doesn't say anything. He just sits there with this look that's kind of a grin. And you're like, he's just going to kill me right now. I feel like that's what Paul's going to do. And if they don't listen to Paul and I, then I need to take it to a broader section of the church family, the community, our community, and say, listen, Sally, this is how Jesus tells us it's supposed to work. Paul and Jesus are convinced that believers should be able to work out their differences with one another amicably and with a sense of fairness and justice. If we can work it through this system, this should be in red letters. Jesus said this. If we can work through this, it should be handled amicably and with a sense of fairness and justice. But we don't want to. I don't want to go through that effort. We are likely to handle it one of 2 ways. One, we'll spiritualize the conflict away, saying, listen, I could confront Sally, but like God doesn't want me to be angry, so I'm just going to bury it. I'm just going to like pretend it never happened. I'm going to put my head in the sand, let Sally put her head in the sand, and we'll just forget it. We'll either do that or we'll weaponize our anger within the church through gossip and triangulation. Daniel, let me tell you what Sally did. right? And I've done this with Daniel. Like, I have. I've sat down with Daniel over coffee and say, hey, I don't mean to gossip. Can I just tell you about so-and-so? And like, as soon as I get it out of my mouth, I'm like, oh, what are you, girl? I hate that I do it. I'm working on it. So if you're in this room, you're like, hang on now, Pastor Scott. I know that I've been at coffee with you and you've said something about so-and-so. Grow up. I'll take it. Jesus himself shows us that healthy Christians don't avoid confrontation or conflict. His life was filled with confrontation and conflict with the religious leaders, with the government, with Rome, with the crowds, with his disciples, even with his family. He had difficulties and disagreement, and he always faced it. He never ran. He never buried his head in the sand. He never grabbed his own Peter and said, Peter, let me tell you about what Sally did. Right? He never did that. He confronted them. And out of a desire to bring true peace, he disrupted the false peace around him. In order to find true peace, he disrupted the false peace that was around him. I'm going to pretend that I'm not mad at Sally, right? And so like, hey, Sally, what's up? Yep, you look great today. Super cute hair. Blah, blah, blah. Right? That's what I'll do. Sometimes I'm mad at Daniel. Will you come up here a second? Sometimes I get mad at Daniel. I know I pick on Daniel a lot. It's only because I've told you, like there's things that Daniel's done for me as a friend that no one's ever done for me as a friend. Like ever. Like when he brought me like those donuts. You remember the donuts, right? Those like Samoa donuts. Oh, those were so good. We were just talking about that the other day. Yeah, we take that off. It's not that kind of show, but I need more room. So sometimes though, I get mad at Daniel.
You do?
I do. Sometimes you get mad at me. This is your head goes right here, and then your arm goes right there. Okay, be really careful. You put your head in first. I don't know how this is ever gonna. Wait, this is my hole. That's your hole.
Close hole.
All right. All right, and then pull it down. Okay. All right, so Daniel's a jerk. It doesn't really. So listen, sometimes I want to create this separation between me and Daniel when I'm mad at him. And Jesus specifically tells us that we need to. It's not that kind of shirt, boy.
Go ahead. Speak.
Anyway, sometimes even when I'm angry, I need to get close to the person I'm angry with, and we need to work it out. I need to be in one outfit over this. My friend Renee was just telling us before church that sometimes when her kids, her son and her daughter would be really mean to each other, she would make them hug for 30 seconds, and then she would make them say 3 or 5 good things about each other. You know what I really admire about you?
What?
Is I really admire like how much you love people. Like you love everybody. You don't even know who they are, and you love them.
Sure.
And I really super duper admire that about you.
Oh.
It's your turn.
My turn?
Yeah, it's something you really admire about me.
Oh, where do I start?
Oh, that's sweet. What? Oh my gosh.
No.
Anyway,
No.
jeez.
I admire the fact that you don't care who is watching.
Mm.
And you will be you.
Yeah,
You don't put on a mask.
Yeah.
You are you.
that's true. That's true. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So if I have a problem with Daniel, I need to get my Get Along Gang shirt on and work it out.
My back itches.
Does it? Right here?
Yeah. Got it.
Did you do this with your leg like a dog? I thought that's what you're doing. I have to. And this is uncomfortable.
No, it's not.
This should be uncomfortable. It should feel awkward, right? I just want this to be over now. It's how, in my flesh, how I feel about it. But this is what we have to do with the people that are Sallys, our partners, our husbands, our spouses, right? Our children, even though it's uncomfortable, even though you get to swallow your pride. Listen, you have to swallow quite a bit of pride to put this shirt on. Why do you keep raising it up? Like I feel like my belly's showing. Oh my gosh. I have to swallow my pride to do this. I'm staying up here longer so you get this picture in your head. The next time someone like ruins you or you feel like hurts you or offends you, swallow your pride and get your Get Along shirt on and work it out. Work it out with your husband. Work it out with your wife. Work it out with your kids. We have to do, we can get out of this
For
now.
$19.99.
Yep, I'll make one of these for you. It's still wet right here. Anyway, all right, we can get out of this now. I'm going to go first.
Okay, go.
All right.
Don't mess up your hair.
Just get off. Thanks for obliging us in that. It's uncomfortable, it's embarrassing, and it's humbling. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that I'm uncomfortable. It doesn't matter that my pride is hurt. It doesn't matter that I feel awkward or stupid. Scripture doesn't protect our comfort or our pride. Scripture isn't interested in your comfort or your pride. Doesn't care one lick about it. Your faith, your salvation, the mercy of God, the love of God, none of it depends on your pride or your comfort. Leave it alone. Forget it. Scripture asks us to confront disagreements, acknowledge hurt, and find peace with one another. So, here are 3 steps towards biblical conflict resolution. Work through your own anger, hurt, and offense. Honestly examine your own complicity and responsibility and initiate the conversation. Listen, Holly, did I tell you that all this stuff is right on the... All right. Holly keeps standing up and taking pictures, and I get all nervous because it's not even my good side. This is my good side, so wait until I'm doing this side. I don't know about you, but I hardly ever did any of these things. I just was mad. I had conflict, right? I'll tell you what, I'm just going to leave the house. I'll show you, right? I'm going to work through my anger. I'm out of here, man. You're lucky if I even come back, right? That's how we want to work. Anyway, so let's just work through these. So number 1, work through your own anger, hurt, and offense. Proverbs 19:11 says this: good sense and discretion make a man slow to anger. How to anger? And it is his honor and glory to overlook a transgression or an offense without seeking revenge or harboring resentment. Don't raise your hand. Raise your hand if you're a resentment harborer. Man, I am. Yesterday I did it. I was really mad. And so I called my brother, my best friend. And I didn't call him first. I do this thing where I try to text first. Hey, got a second? Can I call you? I try to do that as often as I can. So I said, hey, got a sec? Because I wanted to vent my resentment. Not towards him, my resentment about someone else with him, triangulating, right? Yes, this is just yesterday, you guys. This was already written by yesterday. So I'm just telling you that I've struggled with it. So I texted my brother, got a sec? And he didn't. So I went to men's group, and then I stopped here and did some stuff. And then by the time I was done with that, he called. He said, hey, what's up? And I said, hey, I just wanted to tell you that I love you, and I'm so proud to be your brother. Now, that's not why I called him the first time. But like I was convicted by the Holy Spirit. Now, the Holy Spirit didn't descend on me like a dove. I was just convicted. And so I didn't need to triangulate my frustration. I didn't need to triangulate my resentment or my hate. So I said, yeah, I was just calling. No, come on, Scott. I know you better than that. Fair. I said, no, really, that's all I need to tell you. I just need to tell you that I love you and I'm proud to be your brother. And that's how we left it. But I have to be able to do that. This particular passage comes from Proverbs, where so many verses in Proverbs read something like this: a fool does this and a wise man does the opposite. I mean, don't you recognize this about Proverbs? A fool is this and this, and a wise man does just the opposite of that. And search as I might, I can't find one place where Proverbs says the wise are angry. Wise is the man who has resentment. Wise is the man who's angry. Wise is the man who is offended. Never once in all of Proverbs does it say that. Ever about being angry. It's always the fool who's angry. It's always the fool who is led by their anger. Nowhere does it say happy are the angered. Nowhere does it say rich men benefit from his anger or blessed are the angry. Everywhere it says a fool is angry and the wise manage their resentment, revenge, and offense. I know I've told you lots of times about this book, Unoffendable by Brian Hansen. Actually, I bought it for members of our team. If you have any issue with anger in your interpersonal relationships, I'm just telling you, go buy this book. If you don't have the money to buy this book, tell me after, and I'll buy this book for you. Everyone should have this book. If Unless you're like completely aloof to people, like if you're like, "Boo, I don't care about Sally," you know. I just don't know anyone like that. I know for sure I'm not like that. And so this book is just beautiful. And in this book, this guy Brant Hansen says this. He says, "Forfeiting our right to anger makes us deny ourselves and makes us others centered. When we start living this way, it changes everything. When we do this, we'll be making a sacrifice that's very pleasing to God." Relinquishing our right to be angry is beautiful to God. Does that make sense to you? It's such an important piece, at least of my walk. Maybe this is like a nothing sandwich to you, right? I just know for me and my walk and how I'm Jesus to the people around me, I've got to manage my anger. I've got to manage my resentment. And above all else, I need to manage my sense of offense. It's so easy for me to have my feelings hurt. I have big feelings. If you didn't notice, you haven't talked to me at all, you know that I have big emotions. I'm a very emotional guy. Like I'm very loving and I'm very, right? But that same superpower that gives me all of that also makes it really easy to hurt my feelings. And I hate that about me. I hate it. I'm so looking that you love me back that if there's any shortcoming in that, I think it's because you hate me. Not because you just didn't think of it. I just assume you hate me. If you don't show up here on a Sunday, if you like, you said, "I'm super tired. I was up at 1. And listen, I was just going to cancel the whole thing. I was just not, I know I'm supposed to sing and I know I'm supposed to like do all this other stuff, but I'm not going to go. Sorry, I just know someone that said that this morning. I'm not naming any names. Her initials are Mindy. So when you're not here, I don't think it's because you had something better to do. I don't think it's because you're tired from volleyball. I think it's because you hate me. And I hate that about me. Like what did you say? Grow up? Grow up. I don't know. I'm working on it. But I just love you guys so much. I'm like when you're here, like, yeah, you're here. You know, I'm working on it. Anyway, he says this. According to the Bible, it is not a sin, though, to be angry. The Bible doesn't say, do never ever be angry. But how we react, and what we do with that anger is what can either lead us to righteousness or lead us to sin. What we do with our anger. So anger is a very natural thing, but it's what we do with that can make the difference. Reaching out of anger to hurt someone for our own gain or to retaliate in sinful behavior, that the Bible does not condone. So what's the next step? We need to honestly examine your own complicity and responsibility. In other words, we must be teachable. We must be willing to look at ourselves, at our actions, our attitudes, and our preconceived notions. I just said it. I can't think that because Mindy decided to take the day off because she was up since 1, that I got to stop. Sit there and be quiet, Sally. Just teasing.
Oh, I know.
Okay, all right. Sometimes I go too far. I'm sorry. Anyway, but I've already talked about how I come with this preconceived notion. And that's not teachable. I can't be teachable in that. If I've already loaded my weapon, I've already loaded my gun with all my hate and all my spite because I'm offended, I've got no room to be teachable. And teachableness is everything. It's a relatively new term. I need to be teachable. Feels like it's like in the last 10 years. But I'm telling you, it's true to our nature. I need to ask questions no matter how old I am. I need to be asking. I was watching my friend Ron Falkenhagen, the other week we were at Warming in the Heart at Samaritans, and Ron talked to at least 4 different dudes, right? Like unhoused neighbors, right? I'm sure, I don't know what he asked them. I'm sure he's like asking them questions to tell them more about what's going on with them, right? And I love that. I love that Ron at 64, 82, I love that Ron is still willing to ask people questions. There's plenty of people that will walk in there and just make a judgment out of everyone in that room. There's 110 unhoused guests in that room. And there's plenty of Christians that will walk in there and say, why don't you just pull yourself up by your bootstraps like I did and make your own way in the world, right? There's people that do that without asking a question. I need to be teachable. In order for me to truly love my neighbor, I have to be willing to know more about them. I have to know them. I have to ask them questions. Tell me more about your life because I don't know anything about it. I know being a middle-class white dude from suburban Green Bay. That's all I know. Right? So for me to think that I know something about some guy that grew up on Cabrini Green in Chicago, I don't know anything about that dude, man. Like, who am I to make a decision about him, much less a judgment about him, much less get angry with him? I need to be teachable. What are the characteristics of a teachable person? They are humble, they are listeners, they are learners, and they are willing to change. One, they're humble. Proverbs says, any bragger you correct will only hate you. But if you correct someone who has common sense, who's teachable, you will be loved. If you're teachable and you can listen to someone, right, you do it with love. You can do it with love. You're humble enough to know what you don't know. And we have to be that. Be humble enough not to think that you know everything or that your way is the only. Listen, if you're a person that has a reputation in your relationships as the person that never apologizes, what's the word? Grow up. That's right. You're tired. You've been up since 1. I don't ever want to be the person in my relationships that's known for the person that never apologizes or never owns their place. We also need to be listeners. In Hebrews, it says, you must encourage one another each day. You must keep on while there's still time that can be called today. If you don't, then sin may fool some of you and make you stubborn. We have to speak to each other and into each other's lives every day. Every day, be an encourager, be a supporter, be a friend, right? Every day we have to, I need that. I need that. We need to be listeners. We need to be learners. Proverbs 18:15. Wise people want to learn more, so they listen closely to gain knowledge. They listen because they want to learn. I want to know more. I don't want to just sit on what I think my decision is about you. It's funny. I've got what's it called when you hate like a group of people? I do have prejudice. Thank you. Your hair looks nice today. I have prejudices, but they're not against the people that you think I would have prejudices against. I have prejudices against the people that have prejudices. I'm not trying to make myself holy or righteous because it's just as ugly as any other kind of prejudice. But in my mind, if you go to this kind of church, or if you wear these kind of clothes, or if you drive this kind of car, right, and you're a Jesus person, I'm making assumptions about you, and I judge you. And God hates that in me just as much as he hates the person that's, a bigot. Because I guess that makes me a bigot, Yep, grow up. Thanks. That's going to be the new amen, man. Grow up. I need to curb my hate. I need to curb, you know what I mean? And it only comes by being a learner, willing to ask. And so if I have like our neighbors at St. Mary's, right? Like there's things that I'll conclude in my mind about Catholics, about the Roman Catholic Church. Not about Betty, who's 650 years old that goes there every day of the week, or Father Bill, right? Not about them, but just about the church. I've got my hang-ups, right? But I need to learn through that. I need to start asking questions and not just feel like I've got it figured out. Oh no, I know what the Catholics are up to. Let me tell you about this. Let me tell you about that. Let me tell you about this thing. Let me tell you about that thing. That's how they're all screwed up. They're all going to hell. Holy crap. Can I really say that? And so I need to learn. I need to be willing to learn. And lastly, I need to be willing to change. God, examine me and know my mind. Test me and know all my worries. Make sure that I am not going the wrong way. Lead me on the path that has always been right. I need to be willing to change and willing to make this my prayer. My prayers have to look a lot more like this than, Lord, could you just let me win the lottery? Because, man, I don't know how I'm ever going to pay these bills. This should be my prayer. Lord, help me to learn. Help me to change. Help me to be what's right. This is a healthy prayer life. And finally, initiate the conversations. I may have told you this before. I'm sorry if I do, and it's a repeat. So my brother, out of his kindness, once bought me a boat. He bought it from Rawhide Boys Ranch, which, people donate their old crappy stuff to, and then people buy it and they fix it up, to have it, cars, boats, motorcycle stuff. My brother bought me a boat, open bow, tri-hull, this old Johnson motor on it. And like the first week I got it home, I got it all cleaned up, you know what I mean? And I took it out, with with my kid. And then just for a quick run, I got it back in. And then I just didn't do anything with it for like 6 weeks. And so I watch a lot of English movies and television, and they have this phrasing like, I'm a crap dad, meaning like I'm a really lousy dad. And so I texted my brother in frustration with myself, I'm a crap boat owner, meaning I'm a crappy boat owner. I'm not a very good boat owner. But my brother, as it turns out, does not watch a lot of English television or movies. And so what he thought I was texting was like, the boat you bought me is a piece of crap. I'm a crap boat owner. He didn't speak to me for 2 or 3 weeks. I told you he's my best friend. And I'm like, dang it. Not even aware of what I'd done, right? Just knew that we weren't talking. And so I got on my Get Along Gang shirt, right? And I went over to my brother's house and I said, let's figure this out. Here's what I meant when I said it. Oh, I thought you meant, nope. I need to be able to be brave enough to initiate the conversation. I've done this with my wife, where for 20 years, we've been married 22 years. For 20 years of my marriage, I would just assume that if she said something and didn't ask her about it or didn't initiate a conversation about it, I just assumed that, well, man, where's your broom? You know? But I need to initiate the conversation. Even with people that I live with for 20 years, I have to initiate the conversation. I have to be willing to initiate the conversation. I've had similar experiences here. I mean, if you don't mind, a while ago, when we were still at the Micah Center, like, I get super stressed out when I come. Like, I'm super stressed when I get here. Like, I think about all the things that aren't done, or you probably don't even notice them, or things that I wish were true here. Like, I wish that there weren't these big stupid spots on the floor, right? I wish that there was better lighting in the hallway. I wish you didn't have to walk downstairs to get here, right? I wish all these things I let get to me because I need to. But I'm all super anxious when I get to church. And we were at the Micah Center, it was even more so because we had to tear down and set up, and there was just so much. And Holly, bless her heart, asked me some questions about worship or something, and I was just a complete, like, male piece of the anatomy to her. And it really upset her, because on her end, Holly gets really upset. Yep. And so we separated, right? And then I knew you have to talk about this, bro. I know you don't want to. You just want to go around and just continue to be that piece of the male anatomy. But I couldn't. So we went downstairs, right? We talked like in the kids' room or someplace. And I had to tell her, I'm sorry for my part of it. I had to initiate the conversation with her. And since then, we've been on a path, right, that we continue on, where we have to trust one another. I love Holly a lot. I have to trust that she loves me. And if she says something that I'm like, what? Like, I have to trust that she doesn't mean it that way. And I'm asking her to do the same thing, right? And so this is what a grown-up relationship looks like. And this is what God is asking us to do in order to be teachable, in order to work through our difficulties. Luke 17, 3-4 says, be careful. If your brother or sister in God's family does something wrong, warn them. Let them know. Make them aware of it. This is what they mean by warn. If they are sorry for what they did, forgive them. Listen, even if they do something wrong to you 7 times in one day, but they say they are sorry each time, you should forgive them. Now listen, this doesn't apply that if you're in a destructive relationship or a violent relationship. That's a different conversation. Please don't try to marry those things together. That's not what I mean. But if I'm mad at Holly, if I'm mad at Mindy, if I'm mad at Sally, and they're sorry for it, well, I need to forgive them 7 times, even if it's 7 times in one day. This week I shared this post. It may take 2 to tango, but it only takes 1 to forgive. Now I know that the phrase is 2 to tango. That's why I put sick there, because I know that it's supposed to be 2 to tango. But I do also believe that in order for there to be a fight, there's got to be 2 people involved in the fight. It does take 2 to tango, but it only takes 1 to forgive. It just takes 1 person to forgive. I don't have to be in agreement. If I've got a problem with Sally, and I know that Sally is destructive to my life, I need to still forgive Sally, right? I don't need her agreement. I don't need her to ask me for forgiveness. Do you hear me? It's not a 2-way street, forgiveness. If Sally's wronged me, I got to let that crap go. I need to be healthy. And I'm going to be healthy when I forgive her. Not because she deserves to be forgiven. Not because she's asked to be forgiven. Not because she's repented. Not because she's whatever. I just need to forgive her. Move on. And I'm telling you, that's why it may take two to tango, but it only takes one person to forgive and move on. Can you be that person? Can you be that person? Even if it's 7 times a day. Forgiveness. Famously, Peter was asking Jesus about forgiveness, and this is what happened. Then Peter came to Jesus and asked, Lord, when my fellow believer, meaning my brother or my sister, sins against me, how many times must or should I forgive him? Should I forgive him as many as 7 times? Now remember, this isn't like a literal number. 7 was like the forever. If someone had 7 of something, that means that they had all of something. 7 was an infinite number. It wasn't really an infinite number because it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right? So it's not truly infinite, but it represented an infinite number. When you said 7, that meant forever. And so Peter's saying, should I forgive him as many as 7 times? And then Jesus, because he's clever and funny, and I can't wait to be with him because I think he's going to be one of the funniest dudes I've ever met. Because he says, Jesus, I'll tell you, you must forgive him not just 7 times, but 70 times 7 times, meaning 77 times, or maybe even 490 times. Jesus was taking what was already an infinite number and said, multiply that times 10, and then multiply that times 7, and that's how many times. So not just infinity, right? That you ever do that in an argument? I'm smart, you're stupid. No, you're not. Yes, I am. No, you're not. Yes, I am. No, you're not. Yes, I am. No, I'm not. Infinity. You would do that. Do you ever do that? Maybe that's an old school thing. So Jesus takes this infinity and says 10 times that, and then multiply that times 7. That's how many times you must forgive. And I think that that's beautiful. And when? When do we forgive? Jesus answers that. So when you offer your gift to God, present your offering or sacrifice, when you come to the temple to make your offering at the altar, and you remember that your brother or sister has something against you, leave your gift, your offering or sacrifice right there. And at that time, that was like a sheep or a dove or a gerbil or something. You would have this gift, right? You just leave it. Go get forgiveness. Go work it out. Go solve the problem and then come back and make your offering. That's how soon you should be doing this. We can't sit on it. We can't sit on our trespass. We can't sit on our offense. We can't sit on our anger. We have to make the move. Stop sitting on it. There's a famous quote, though it's anonymous, that says this: the first to apologize is the bravest, the first to forgive is the strongest, and the first to forgive is the happiest. Now, I know that's not biblical. I know it's like Paul didn't say that or Proverbs didn't say that, but I feel like there's some truth to that. That there's truth to that there's braveness and there's strength and there's joy that we can find in forgiveness. And we have to do that because we have to get along. If we're talking about church crushes, right? I can't crush on the church where I'm anonymous. I want to crush on the church where I'm known, right? Don't you want to be known? Don't you want to be seen? I feel like the rest of my life I'm unknown. The rest of my life I'm unseen. At church, I should be known and seen. That's the kind of church that I want to be jealous of. That's the kind of church that I have a crush on. We've got a handful of questions here prepared for you to discuss. Let's just take 15 minutes to work that out. This is a big part about how we do church. If you're at a small table and want to join a big table, please do that. If you got to cut out, no one's going to be mad at you if you need to dip. But it only takes 15 minutes. We'll do announcements and then we'll get out of here.